Hi, Paraton Weather Meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, July 28th. Well, if you live in the Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, the northeastern part of the nation, you have some pretty comfortable air coming over the next several days for the latter part of July and the beginning of August. A couple of cold frontal systems will work their way from the northwest to the southeast and through the mid-Atlantic region off the eastern seaboard over the next several days, the first one of which arrives later tomorrow night, and then the second one early part of next week. The system on Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening could bring some strong thunderstorm activity, maybe some severe weather to the mid-Atlantic region as it pushes from the northwest to the southeast and ushers in a comfortable air mass for Friday and Saturday. More comfortable air is destined to arrive in the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the northeastern part of the nation for much of next week, the very first week of the month of August. Meanwhile, out in the western part of the nation, the Four Corners region especially, still some significant rainfall, and this is the total precipitation amounts forecasted by NOAA for the next 5 days between this morning, Wednesday morning, and next Monday morning. And a few areas that I want to highlight. First of all, look at all this rain out in this part of the nation. This, of course, is normally much more dry this time of the year, but this has been a monsoonal type of a weather pattern, and by that I mean this: the overall wind has been out of the south or east, pushing a lot of moisture into the interior part of the western U.S., especially the Four Corners states of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. But even now, Nevada is getting in on the rainfall. And look at this, even the Sierra Nevada mountain range of eastern California getting in on some unusual late July, early August rainfall. By the way, Death Valley actually had about a half an inch of rain the other day. Very unusual to get a half an inch of rain late July in Death Valley. Their annual total is around 2.2 inches. So again, quite welcome in many areas, as that part of the nation has been stricken by some drought conditions. But certainly Arizona, for example, has had a lot of rains that should alleviate the drought situation, and it continues again for the next 5 days or so out in much of that part of the country. Meanwhile, some bands here you notice of some heavier rainfall. These are really associated with potentially strong to severe thunderstorms that will kind of move around the peripheral of a high pressure ridge in the Central Plains on the Ring of Fire area, the northern part of that high pressure ridge. Strong thunderstorms moving from northwest to southeast over the next few days in this part of the nation. And again, there's a possibility of some strong thunderstorm activity in the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. later tomorrow night with the arrival of a frontal system. A second front looks like it'll arrive early next week, and behind these frontal systems, the air will be quite comfortable. Friday and Saturday, for example, low 80s perhaps in D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City with a stiff northwest breeze and comfortable humidity levels. Stays nice on Saturday as well. And again, much of next week looks like it'll be comfortable in the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the northeastern part of the nation. Well, let's take a look at the upper air pattern here from last night's operational run of the GFS, a 6Z operational run. We'll take a look and see what is causing the expected weather over the next several days. Again, with nice conditions in much of the northeastern quadrant of the nation and still wet conditions out in the interior west. First of all, starting off the day here on Wednesday with a strong upper level ridge right over the central part of the nation, and this is promoting that southerly, easterly flow of air into the interior part of the west. That's a moist flow of air, a monsoonal type of weather pattern. Monsoon is really thought of as insinuating heavy rains, but it's really, technically speaking, a monsoon or monsoonal wind. It refers to the overall wind flow that can bring some heavy rainfall to certain parts of the world, like India, for example. And again, in the southwestern states, we have kind of a monsoonal type of climate usually during the the latter stages of the summer season. It started a little earlier this year, but in addition, notice I talked about the ring of fire on the northeastern side of that high pressure system, and indeed this is kind of the progression of those severe thunderstorms over the next few days across maybe Minnesota and Wisconsin, from the northwest to the southeast. So now let's move forward here and watch what happens with this upper level pattern here as we move forward. Basically, high pressure ridging sits out over the northern plains and northwestern part of the nation. Meanwhile, in the northeastern quadrant, we have upper level low as a dominant feature here. This is the Friday afternoon forecast map. This will be a breezy day. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Boston. Low humidity air, probably high temperatures in the lower 80s along the I-95 corridor region. And watch what happens as we go into the first part of August, into next week. Basically just sits and spins a kind of a reinforcing shot in the upper air of an upper level low over the northeastern part of the nation. This is all the way into Monday morning. Still below normal heights up across the northeast. And again, expect another comfortable air mass moving into the Great Lakes, the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic, the northeastern part of the nation. However, out in the west, from the northern plains to the Pacific Northwest, it remains hotter than normal with high pressure ridging continuing out across the southwestern part of Canada. Well, how does that upper air pattern affect the temperatures down at the lower levels of the atmosphere? Let's take a look at the 850 millibar temperature anomalies going forward here. Starting off Wednesday morning with cooler than normal conditions across much of New England, but hotter than normal over the northern plains, kind of what the pattern has been. By the way, for the month of July, places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City have been pretty darn close to normal for the month of July. A little bit above, a little bit below, and again, looks like below normal conditions for Friday and Saturday and for much of next week as well in that part of the I-95 corridor region. Let's now move forward here. That cooler than normal air mass pushes on out of here by tomorrow, but another cold front starts to drop across the Great Lakes and into the northeast, and again, it could produce some strong to severe thunderstorms later tomorrow night. That's later Thursday into Thursday night, and then that will be followed by yet another comfortable air mass with a stiff northwest breeze on Friday. This is the Friday afternoon forecast map. Winds probably gusting 15 to 25 miles per hour. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City with low humidity and high temperatures only in the lower 80s, maybe the middle 80s on Friday afternoon, below normal for this time of year. Then we move forward here, and look at this, upstream, yet another cool shot here with that upper level low situated over the northeastern part of the nation. Expect later in the week and into the early part of next week a continuation of below normal conditions and kind of a mixed bag in terms of temperatures out across the Four Corners region. That's because of the abundance of moisture. Plenty of clouds around and rain will keep temperatures down in much of this part of the nation. This is the forecast map for the early part of next week. Let's move forward a little bit and just notice here, cooler than normal conditions just remain for much of the first week of August, from Texas all the way up to New England. Meanwhile, stays hotter than normal from the northern plains to much of the interior northwestern part of the U.S. Well, let's wrap up by looking at the surface forecast maps from the 6Z GFS. High pressure to our north. That's just a beautiful phrase to say this time of the year if you live in New York City or Philadelphia. And again, temperatures today will be a little bit better than they were yesterday in Philadelphia, New York City. D.C. probably still reaches the 90-degree mark, but it's always nice to see high pressure to the north. Mainly, if not completely, a rain-free day is on tap for much of the Mid-Atlantic region today on a Wednesday. Then we go into the day on Thursday. This is the Thursday morning forecast mapping. Here is some rainfall associated with that incoming cold frontal system. And again, depends on the exact setup here that unfolds on Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, but there could be some strong to severe thunderstorm activity in the I-95 corridor region, really anywhere across the mid-Atlantic region, the northeastern part of the nation. Again, that's late tomorrow into tomorrow night with the arrival of that first strong cold front. Then Friday and Saturday, and here we go, Friday, high pressure. Canadian high pressure drops over the Great Lakes by Friday afternoon. Noticeable north to northwest breeze in the I-95 corridor region throughout the mid-Atlantic region. Lower humidity, comfortable air, and it stays comfortable going into the upcoming weekend. And then by the time we get to Sunday morning, we see another Canadian high pressure system showing up on the maps here across the southern part of Canada. And indeed, it looks like another frontal passage early part of next week, and yet another comfortable air mass then moves into the northeastern part of the nation for much of next week. Now, another thing I want to point out here, this is the Monday afternoon forecast map. There will be a ton of moisture, it looks like, setting up across the southeastern part of the nation next week and across the eastern seaboard. There's a possibility that this could end up resulting in a strong low pressure system forming along the east coast, maybe by the middle part of next week. Something we'll have to watch. It's several days away, 6, 7, maybe 8 days away from now, but be a ton of moisture again hanging on around the eastern seaboard and down across the Gulf coastal region with a cooler than normal air mass in place. Might see the development of low pressure along the eastern seaboard. Again, there'll be some supportive upper level low as well over the eastern Great Lakes, northeastern part of the nation. So a lot going on over the next several days. Continuation of a wet weather pattern across much of the western part of the nation, even into California. Again, the Sierra Nevadas, for example, will get some decent rainfall over the next 5 days. And watch out for strong thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon in the mid-Atlantic region. But that frontal system will usher in a very comfortable air mass for Friday and Saturday, and more comfortable air for much of the eastern half of the nation for the first week of August. That's it for now. For ParatonWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.